prepare to receive the devil's punishment, which is listening to this podcast. Pod people.
That's true.
I'm Matisse Van Rossum, lieutenant of the Marijuana Squad.
Fuck. I'm Ben Sheets, and I don't have an intro now because it was taken.
We are all the Marijuana Squad.
We're all part of the Marijuana Squad now.
Hey, yo, except for me, it's your boy, female prisoner Teacup Pig 420. What's up? Hey, it's me, Cleveland Mosier.
Are you sure you're not part of the Marijuana
I'm
Squad?
definitely part of the Marijuana Squad. That was a sting operation. I was in disguise. I'm in the Marijuana Squad for sure. Let's go, baby.
Let's fucking go. We're back. Ben picked the film this week. Ben picked a Japanese exploitation film from 1972 called Female Prisoner
701 Scorpion.
Scorpion. Thank you.
Yes.
Goddamn. What a fucking cumbersome title it is.
What a mouthful.
But what a banger.
What a banger.
What a fucking banger.
Yes. This is one of the movies on my underrated list because I think, to me, it's a classic,
Yes.
but I don't think it gets the recognition it deserves.
I had never seen it before. I am not familiar with 70s Japanese exploitation films at all. This was my first foray into that.
So it's interesting because Japanese exploitation has its own subgenre, really. The pinku films is what they're called. And they're exploitation films that are... You're laughing at the pinku part, yeah?
I am.
Yes. It is a funny title.
It sounds like Benedict Cumberbatch trying to say penguin.
Pinku.
Yeah.
But they're explicitly like nudity heavy and like
Oh yeah.
very sexually driven. And
We're all pinku on the inside, right?
yes.
Jesus Christ. Pull yourself together, Taze.
No, I can't.
Pull yourself together. I'm doing a broad slapping motion.
Oh, you're slapping at me several inches away.
In preparation for this movie, I watched some of the special features on the Arrow release.
Yes, a very nice.
Great restoration.
Very nice Arrow 4K restoration that we watched. Yeah, beautiful.
But they were talking about how, like, 70s, very politically tumultuous period throughout the globe, you know? All these different places had big political uprisings of sorts. And they were talking about how the guy who directed this, Shinya Ito, was the leader of the labor union for the Toei crew.
Okay.
And so he was assigned to make a pinku film, which, like I said, very sexually charged film. You gotta have a certain amount of nudity in it. He wanted to adapt this manga called Scorpion. And so he did with this movie, and he basically took the idea of the manga and just did his own thing. And this movie does have a lot of sexually driven stuff in it, but it doesn't feel like sleazy to me in a way. Like, it feels exploitation at its core, but it feels like it's doing much more than that. It feels like it's elevating the exploitation.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like it's a deeply horny film that doesn't make me feel like a scumbag for watching it.
Well, it's interesting because
Which is weird.
There's a lot of nudity and like a lot of boobs and stuff.
And rape.
And rape, and prison rape, as you would expect in a prison movie. It doesn't feel, like, horny in its depiction of that stuff all that much, to me at least. Maybe you disagree, but...
I do kind of disagree, but at the same time, it does, like, yeah, there is a distinct lack of, like, the kind of sleaze that I'm used to from like American exploitation films. Like, it definitely feels horny.
Yes.
Like I the whole time I was watching this movie, I was you providing some context helps a little bit, but I was just watching this movie thinking like, the guy who made this movie made it so he could look at breasts.
Well, they were contractually obligated to put, a certain amount of nudity
that makes more sense. Contractually obligated for a certain amount of titties.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. You said that the director was the head of the labor union for Toei, which is the studio that made this movie.
Famous Japanese studio. Did a lot of big name Japanese series.
Well, I've actually got a few that I wanted to mention.
Hausu?
Yes. They did Hausu. I think most famously also, they did the original Power Rangers.
Okay.
Which makes sense because they also did and still do Kamen Rider, which fucking rules. That's the Mantis Man on a motorcycle.
Yo,
it's fucking awesome.
There has been a clip going around on Twitter lately from the new Shin Kamen Rider movie.
Yeah, dude.
And
I'm fucking hyped.
It looks insane.
Dude, there's a last year or so they put out like Kamen Rider. I forget what it's called. It's like Kamen Rider Black or something like that, and it's it's like Power Rangers, but it goes hardcore. And he's a Mantis robot.
that is
like,
what the clip that I saw looks like.
The whole thing is like with
like
Kamen
punching
Rider,
dudes and their heads explode and shit.
And they're spearing them,
tight.
and like he's like riding around on a motorcycle, which is super fucking cool. Apparently, he was like a Nazi experiment or something too that went wrong, and now he's like fighting for justice.
I don't know enough about that deep lore.
Yeah, but anyway, at some point we'll
But anyway, I think
anyway, they did that.
There's a lineage from this movie to stuff like that.
Yes, and well, if I could I just
Clearly
name a couple of the movies that they put out before Female Prisoner Scorpion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because there are some really good titles here. Kamikaze Cop, Voyage into Space, Horrors of Malformed Men. These are all the English titles, of course.
Of course.
The translations. Fear of the Snake Women.
Me every day of my life.
Yeah, right. Ghost of the One-Eyed Man, House of Terrors, Ghost Music of Shamisen, Invasion of the Neptune Men, Alakazam the Great, Ghost from the Pond, Planet Prince, The Terrifying Spaceship, Ghost Story of Broken Dishes at Bancho Mansion, Weak Need from Fear of Ghost Cat.
What a legacy.
That was their first. Their first movie was Weak Need from
Fear of Ghost Cat.
Yeah, what a start, man.
Incredible.
Yeah, dude. No, big respect. Love Toei. Love a lot of the shit they put out.
Toei is a pretty respected Japanese studio.
Yeah, no doubt.
I certainly respect them after seeing this gratuitously breasted prison film.
Hell yeah.
Respect.
Dude,
Mad
hashtag
respect.
feminism. Let's go.
Man, I fucking love this movie.
No, this movie is great.
We should cover like the basics of
The plot.
The plot. So
It's pretty simple.
Yoshimatsu, aka Scorpion, which is what I'm gonna call her for the rest of the movie.
The movie never calls her Scorpion, even though the film is titled Female Prisoner Number 701 Scorpion.
Yeah, but in our hearts, she's Scorpion.
Yes. Matsu is her name, yeah.
She is dating a member of the Marijuana Squad, a sort of DEA branch of Japan.
Yeah, the narcos.
Yeah.
She's dating a narco cop on the Marijuana Squad.
Yeah. And she is tasked by him to go undercover to infiltrate the Yakuza.
As part of a sting operation.
She is double-crossed by her lover, and she ends up being raped by the Yakuza and ends up going to prison.
Yeah, she tries to take revenge on the Marijuana Squad guy, tries to knife him, because it's revealed that he is, not only was she betrayed by him and allowed her to be raped by the Yakuza, but he's also working with the Yakuza, with a different Yakuza organization. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she tries to kill him, she goes to prison, and she is the most badass bitch in that prison.
Yes.
And that's basically the
majority
movie.
of this movie is a women in prison exploitation joint.
So, that part, I think, was what really helped me enjoy it. is that in the past
It's because you
I've
like
made
to see
notice-
women in prison, understandably.
Of course. Yes. Hashtag girl boss. Hashtag feminism. But in the past, I've been a little down on exploitation films and rape.
Well,
revenge
especially
films.
rape revenge films.
Yeah, as a whole.
It's funny, before you got here, Ben and I were actually talking. He was saying, I bet Cleve is either going to love this or hate this.
Yeah. And you know what, though? I think when it comes to this subject matter of, like, women in prison, you're going to have a hard time avoiding the topic. And if you're going to have that subject matter in this setting, this is the setting for it. Also, I think I've calcified to it a little bit more, like, over the years of the podcast.
I think
I was going to put that aside.
I think a big element of it in this movie is they don't make light of the rape. I think it turns Scorpion into an angel of death, purely out for revenge because of it in this movie. And I think that makes it so much more powerful.
Well, and also, like, the sequence itself is, like, the actual, like, act is skipped over.
Mostly,
the lead in, like, she's unfortunately, trigger warnings, etc. But, like, she's stripped down and, like, they all gather around, but then, like, essentially she's thrown to the floor and then it cuts to the end of that sequence. Whereas, like,
because it was made in 1972.
Yeah, thankfully, frankly, like, I
as
appreciate
as many titties and upskirt shots as there are in this movie,
there's still restraint.
There's still a certain amount of restraint.
Restraint feels like the wrong word, but it's the best word for it. And
I do love how that sequence is shot. I hate to say it because it feels wrong to say it in this moment, but, like, they have, like, a glass pane and, like, they're all on top of it and they're shooting.
Yeah, so it's like shooting
under
up through the floor,
which is so creative. Like, I don't think I've seen a movie do that.
This is
before.
An exceptionally well shot film.
Yes.
And the stylization is unbelievably on point. I said about halfway through watching this that I'm earnestly envious of this movie's confidence. It doesn't care if slaps don't land or, anything else, but, like, it just cares about, like, pushing the emotion as far as you can take it. Yeah. And just, like, to a cartoon degree at times. And it's so bold in it. I love it.
It's an extremely low budget movie that is kept from feeling cheap by exceptional cinematography.
Yes. And
true artistry.
Shinya Ito mentioned how he was less inspired by Japanese stuff and more inspired by, like, European art house stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like Buñuel and Fellini. And it definitely shines through because it feels like it elevates sort of sleazy, cheap material to be, like, very art house inspired stuff.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like an inspiration to stuff that would come after in, like, Italian giallo almost.
Mm-hmm. Yes. With all the colored gels.
Colored gels and the bright red blood.
Yeah.
It just feels so influential in that respect.
And stuff like Ricky O, which, takes a similar premise and, pushes it to its extreme. But yeah, they're like the lineage of this film is clear, I think. Having never seen it before, I'm able to watch it and be like, hey, I know other films that have referenced this.
Well,
you mentioned Tarantino at the beginning. Kill Bill
uses the theme song for this movie. The Bacana, Bacana, no. Like, that whole thing is played in Kill Bill. And a lot of the shots as well, I think, were pretty heavily inspired by Tarantino.
The director, Sion Sono, who directed, I think most recently, Prisoners of Ghostland, but they also did stuff like Love Exposure, Anti-Porno, a bunch of other stuff. He references this movie a ton. Like, he's put his main actress in the iconic Scorpion costume a few times, even.
Oh, fun.
With the droopy hat and the
black trench coat, yeah.
And those Giallo black gloves with a knife. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool.
Iconic.
It's cool. Another thing, while we're talking about the style that I love, is, of course, the theater, the stage-like set design.
I love how this movie uses that stuff.
I'll tell you what really works about it, and why like sometimes like theater-esque sets don't always land is because it starts and stops with that concept. But here it's like this is some of the best theater effects I've seen too, and so it really like it works being like translating into a film like beautifully. It's like every frame's like
I love it because it's in her kind of recollection of the past. Because we start in the prison, and it's kind of her retelling what happened. And in her memory, like, we get these fluid shots, which, like, have her laying there in the foreground, for example, and, like, there's, like a rotating set that goes from one scene to another.
Yes, her lover, the cop who betrays her, he pops out and he's like, "Haha, you're under arrest, and I've got all of your cabinet full of marijuana." And then like the wall just like straight up rotates like a Scooby-Doo thing, and it comes around, and then he's there talking to a different Yakuza boss who he works for, being like, "Haha, look at all of this money we've made together now. That stupid bitch, we sure did fool her." And it's just like, it's so well stylized. I mean, yeah, in the flashback stuff especially, but it's not like limited to that either. It's not even limited to like her memory, but I love how like so much of the like dramatic violent scenes later are stylized like that as well, where she's like
with such clear intent.
Yeah, where she's like fighting the other woman like in the showers, that scene, and she like
my favorites.
She's like chasing her, and she does this like it's like a straight up Looney Tunes gag where she like runs through a door and slams the door behind her, and the woman chasing her head goes through the glass of the
glass
door.
pane on the door.
But that's elevated so much by the following.
Well, yeah, then it follows up, and it's like the lights change. They slap this like sort of ethereal blue gel on it, and like the woman looks up, and she's got like
horrified.
She's got like blood coming down her face, and they've got sort of like kabuki-esque kind of like makeup on her, and she's got like this big shard of glass that she's wielding like a knife.
Legitimately terrifying.
It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. They use like the theatrical elements to really elevate kind of the material with the low budget. And I respect that so much.
House is the same though.
Yeah.
House does a lot of
House
that same stuff.
Same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this movie feels like it's a little more compact and streamlined.
Yes, much simpler.
Yeah,
much more straightforward. But it's cool because it is so simple and straightforward, it has so much room to play around with the style because it doesn't get bogged down in story and lore and characters and stuff like that. Like it's very to the point, which I appreciate.
Yeah, they do a really great job like playing with rhythm in this movie. In like there'll be really intense sequences, and then they'll have like durational periods where things calm down a little bit, and then we'll get another sequence of high intensity.
It's always paired with how like heightened things are. Like when things calm down, we sort of fall back into realism, and the sets feel more like genuine, or even they're on location. And then they feel on location. And then as soon as things become wild and crazy and they build up, like suddenly we're placed on like a very clear set with a matte painting and the gels come on, and it always feels to match the intensity of emotion in the scene. One of my favorite examples is like the devil punishment, where they're having her dig a hole out in the prison courtyard. It looks like a prison courtyard when she's digging the hole, and they're all doing the dirt and everything. But as the riot breaks out, suddenly we're brought into this incredible set with this like gorgeous, like it looks like the eye of fucking like of Jupiter, like this incredible like stormy matte painting, like this all orange and vivid in the sky.
It's like a vortex.
Yeah.
That reminded me of like the end of like Daniel Isn't Real.
Yeah.
Where like the sky gets all fucking crazy and shit. But
No one pops out of a skin suit, but it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't get quite that dramatic, but yeah, the sky particularly reminded me of it. I love that the so much of the punishment in this prison is just making people dig holes.
Yes.
Because they punish them.
Dig those holes.
Yeah, they have that, like the one punishment earlier where they're out in the field and they're all digging their own hole, and then they have them later digging like the one big hole together, and then they make all the women except Matsu get out, and it's like, now you have to keep digging the hole, and they're all like, the devil's punishment, the devil's punishment. The devil's punishment. And I guess the devil's punishment is just digging a really big hole by yourself.
Yep. And then eventually they get everyone around the side to start.
They're like, no, start filling the
hole
hole back in.
while she's
And
still trying to dig.
and it's like at some point it's like they're all just like back in the pit, and like some of them are like throwing dirt out. It's like nobody knows what they're fucking doing. Are they filling the hole in or digging it back
'Cause,
out?
I mean,
Like,
at that point, like, it falls apart because
Well, yeah, I
she
mean,
can
there's-
just
it's-
step up.
yeah,
and,
it's
like,
it's like
not get buried.
it's the most shameful punishment as well, because it's like it's labor, but it's pointless labor.
Yeah.
Digging and refilling in holes, like it doesn't accomplish anything. You know, you're
Just like
just
in the movie Holes.
yeah.
And the book.
Well, no, that Cleveland, that's not
They were
true.
searching
That's
for
not true. They
treasure,
were searching for treasure. They didn't know it, but that's what they were doing. They were searching for treasure for Sigourney Weaver.
And the treasure was onions, right?
No, they eat onions.
On
They
God's
eat
thumb.
onions later to survive
Yeah,
when
on
they're out
God's
in the
thumb.
on God's thumb. But also they find peaches.
Did they find peaches?
Yeah, they find like canned peaches from somebody. Yeah,
They found canned peaches.
and they call it sploosh.
It's so funny. I was talking.
They call the canned peaches sploosh.
I was talking to my
Fuck.
mom about this movie because she was
Y'all
showing it to
remember
her
Holes?
elementary
Y'all remember
school
Holes?
class in like 4th or 5th grade, and they were so into it.
Dude, Holes
They were-
rules.
Yeah,
I
it's so good.
I
They were
read that-
She was showing them the movie, and they were like honed in.
I read that book. I read that book in like, I want to say like 3rd grade, and it was like my favorite book for a hot minute. And I remember when that movie came out, and I was so fucking excited.
The movie was pretty good.
The movie was
real
pretty
talk.
well. I'm saying that
Maybe
not
Shia LaBeouf.
having seen it since I was like 10 years old.
You know
probably.
what? Considering what my mom said, I think it hits with its target audience very well.
Of children,
Yes.
yes, exactly,
Who, as we know, have incredible taste.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, it was clearly inspired by this movie, right?
Yeah.
You've got to go dig those holes.
Yeah, that was the chronological order
Yeah.
of things as they happened. That's correct.
Yep.
Holes-inspired female prisoner.
No, that's what I'm saying. Holes was inspired by female
Oh, yeah,
prisoner
okay.
701
All right,
Scorpion.
I'm with it. She did have to dig those holes.
They all did. Yeah, that's the devil's punishment.
Wow.
I love how it starts with the Japanese flag, with the Japanese national anthem playing in the background,
Yeah.
with all these fucking wardens, coppers getting
Oh, yeah.
commendations
For watching the prisoners so good,
for fucking abusing these prisoners.
for fucking abusing these prisoners so good, they're getting commended, and then in the middle of the commendation, the alarms start ringing because somebody has escaped.
Well, I like it too because with that alarm and that warning, a breeze picks up, and the guy lets go in surprise over the alarm. He lets go of his commendation, and it flies through the air and lands at the edge of all of the cops running.
And somebody
crowd
and they
trampled.
trample
gets
it.
trampled
Yeah.
by all these running cops, and the guy runs, and the guy at the end of the crowd he picks it up and he tries to dust it off, but it's too late. It's been besmirched. And
It's so cinematic.
yeah, it's great, and
Fantastic start to a film, really.
oh yeah, and you can tell this movie was really intricately scripted, and I love that shit.
I must
eat it up.
I must say I don't know enough about like mid to late 20th century Japanese politics to really get the commentary of this film, but I can tell that they sure are saying something about it.
Well, yeah, because when we cut we cut back in time, or when we go to the flashback, we have that wonderful shot of like as they're making love so dramatically. It cuts to a white flag and a red stain
of blood appears in the middle.
As he loses her virginity.
Yeah,
as he takes her virginity. It
sort of the Japanese flag.
Yeah, which is...
It's great.
I
love how
it like unrolls
vibrantly that whole sequence is shot with just this bright blue room.
Mm-hmm. Blue walls, blue floors.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like wrapped in a white sheet and he unrolls it. It's so dramatic. It's like, he's unwrapping. But yeah,
I don't know. I get the feeling I like, again, I don't know enough about the politics to say for sure, but I get the feeling that like they're maybe saying something about like Japanese nationalism and like the fucking like comfort women, like war crimes that they committed in like World War II and shit like that, and sort of comparing that to like how the women in the prison are abused and mistreated.
I think there's definitely some political messaging here.
Because the director was the head of the labor union, so like
much more than that. There's a very
opinions.
like we joked about it early on, but there's a very directly feminist message in this movie. All of the men in this movie are kind of brutish animals that are very unsympathetic, unredeemable monsters, really.
A lot of the women are too.
Yes,
in
that's
fairness.
why it works.
But even the women are sympathetic, for the most part, and more complex characters. I think one of the most key lines in the movie, to be deceived is a woman's crime. And I think the core of
It's the protagonist who says that.
Yeah. And I think the core of what's being said there is like, women can give empathy and can open themselves up to deception, whereas men are just brutish animals. And I think for its time especially, that this is a huge, piece of feminist cinema, which is weird to say because, it is definitely at the same time exploitation cinema.
There are so many titties in this movie.
Yeah. There's definitely a sense of...
There's so, like, yeah.
There's a sense of trying to have your cake and eat it too here.
Yeah.
It's like, we're...
Again, like, while I was watching this movie, I'm like, this movie was made by somebody who just wanted to look at titties. Like, it's so much.
Leave it to the pervy Japanese dudes to fucking give those good political messages.
I will say, like, aside from the morality of it, like, once we step past that, not that it should be stepped past, but we've dug into that discourse. It shows such a wide range of that emotionally. Like, you have the sequence where the women are, like, in a line as prisoners, and they're having to go up the stair steps, and the guards beneath are, like, checking them for smuggling anything, but of course the guards beneath are lecherously leering at them.
Yeah.
And
one's like licking his lips.
Yeah. He's like toothless too. Like it's really it's vile. And then later on, there's also a scene of them being like really jovial in the showers, and it feels like, and it's this really long panning shot of just all these women showering, and but what I like about it is like they show a lot of like earnest camaraderie in that sequence. Like, there was something about it that's like, for as staged as it is, it also feels like very genuine and upbeat. For like what torment these women are going through, they're just still trying to find a light moment and be playful. And that's hard to do with that kind of a shot, so it doesn't come across as like, tee-hee, we're all naked, haha! And it's like, it still feels like they're trying to show like a genuine like human moment. But it's still exploitative. Like, I mean, it's...
the movie...
No doubt.
It's funny because it starts very... The camera is very leering and...
Yes.
Kind of glamorizing this. And then it's followed up by one of the moments of the most intense violence in the movie. I love that juxtaposition.
The movie accomplishes an interesting blend of both misogyny and misandry, I think. Because, like, yeah, you've got all the stuff we've just talked about, but, like, also Matsu kind of, like, rapes Beyonce, who turns out to be an undercover cop, but she, like, sexes her up so good that, like, she wants to be thrown back into solitary so she can get some more of that good. And then, like, later during the riot, like, all of the female prisoners, like, rape several of the male guards who they have kidnapped and, like, held hostage. So it's like there's, like, a good amount of, like, give and take with the movie. Is like, yeah, there is a lot of, like, violence against women and, like, these creepy fucking lecherous guards doing kind of shit, you know. But then also, like, there's the reverse of that. A bunch of the female prisoners rape the guards.
Yep. That also happens.
Yeah, so it's really showing both sides. If you think about it.
Like, it does though. Like,
You know, if there's one thesis to this movie, it's that everybody likes to rape.
Yep. Pretty cool.
That's what this movie's about.
No, but no, there is, like, yeah, there's pretty much every variety of it in this film, every flavor of rape that you know,
every flavor of rape that
Yeah,
you can imagine.
yeah,
That's not true. It's really just two types of rape.
yeah.
We should move on
We
to
should
a
move
different
on.
topic.
Yeah, let's just talk about the cinematography some more. Again,
Man, it's so good.
I guess we said we were going to talk about the plot, and then we just started
We have
talking about how
that.
well
We have
I mean,
that
there's not-
fantastic.
there's not a whole
prison
lot of
rape
plot.
sequence where they're running through the really tall grass.
Back to
Yeah,
the
right at the
intro,
beginning,
yes.
And
yeah.
it's so starkly shot because, like, the grass is just a vibrant green, and they're in this iconic sort of navy prison outfit.
Mm-hmm.
It seems kind of cheaply made, but, like,
it would be
kind of iconic at the same
Yeah.
time. And they're being chased by all these coppers with their dogs.
Oh yeah, they have German shepherds on leashes in the front, and it was funny, like, leading into that sequence. I was saying, like, oh damn it really sucked to be chased by a German shepherd, and then as they have them on the leashes and they're running through, and then not long after that they pick up the scent of one of the girls and they let the shepherds off the leash.
One of the women get their period.
Yeah, while they're running, which again, you know, hashtag feminism. But she,
Well, Matsu is like, you just haven't had it in a long time because you've been in prison. But so it's like the second she breaks out of prison, just immediately, oh, my period!
I know. Yeah, I know what exactly.
Women, am I right, folks?
Jesus. Yeah, I don't really understand the subtext of that, but she has her period. She starts running.
It gives the dogs a blood trail to follow.
The dogs have a literal trail of blood to follow, and they let the shepherds off the leash, and it is.
And one of them just disappears and is never seen again.
He got lost.
They have two
fell in a
German
swamp.
shepherds, and they release both of them, and one of them we just never see.
You know,
We just
Yeah.
never see again.
it wanted its freedom.
There's a whole scene of the other one, like, attacking them, and, like, one of the women, like, beats it to death with, like, a log.
Scorpion, yeah.
Like a stick, yeah. But that other one that they let off, just...
But
It was a
love.
tragic quicksand
Yeah.
accident.
I do really love those shots of the shepherds running through the grass, though, because it is pretty earnestly like, yo, that's scary. Like, I would not want to be chased by one of them.
No, not
don't
true.
think so?
It's one of those... Well, I
think the framing is really good.
I love the way that it's shot. I do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's one of those things. Is the case in, like, pretty much every movie where dogs are used as antagonists. It's like, it's just so, like, you look at it, it's like, those are just very well trained good boys that
They're
are
very
excited
happy dogs.
that are excited to be there. It's like they don't look like
I mean,
vicious
that's
or
the
angry at
clearest
all.
point is when they quote unquote kill it.
Yeah, she
And
beats it with the dog with the stick, and you can see the dog is like lying there. It's like doing good. It's like laying there, but it's kind of like looking and like moves its head a little bit. It's like, can I get up now?
I
It's
love
like, no, that's just like, yeah. And when it like jumps on them, it's like, that's just a very excited, happy,
happy,
you know,
well trained dog.
With that being said, I'd much rather take that than like brutal dog violence.
Sure.
Same.
Even fake.
Every time.
It's one of those
Couldn't agree
things.
more.
It's one of those things
Yeah.
I think is kind of charming. It's like, maybe I'm thinking about because we're going to see John Wick 4 tomorrow. But like in John Wick 3, when he like goes to fucking Casablanca and meets up with Halle Berry, and she's got
German Shepherd.
she's got the dog, and they're wearing bulletproof vests, and oh man, that whole fucking scene rules. The part where she
too.
bends over and the dog like jumps up on her back and leaps up onto like
on the wall. I love that shit.
I love it, and it's like, that's another one of those things where it's like, man, those dogs are so well trained, but they're just so excited and happy to be there. It's hard to take them seriously as like these vicious threats. It's like those dogs are having such a good time.
But so am I.
Whereas like a cat, I feel like a cat on screen, it's easy to get a cat to be like angry and like hiss, at the camera. But dogs are always just happy to be there. And I think those German Shepherds in this movie were happy to be there. One of my favorite parts about that scene, too, is the introduction of a recurring character who, like, doesn't end up doing all that much, but I really like him, is Sunglasses Cop. Because he's, like, he somehow gets out ahead of them, and he, like, steps out from behind these bushes, just, like, in the water.
Because they order all the guys to split up. They've got their scent. Now everyone,
Well,
start
all the rest of the cops are together in one big group, but somehow Sunglasses Cop is out ahead of them and he stops them. But I don't know. I just like his whole vibe. He spends most of the movie. He spends most of the movie just like pointing a gun at people, and like we don't really get any sort of like climactic showdown with him like I was kind of expecting for like such a recognizable because he's the only
one of sorts in the chase sequence. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's when he's introduced.
Yeah.
So he's like, and he's got like a distinguishing feature. He's like the only one of the guards who's wearing sunglasses.
Well, he also incites the Devil Pit riot. That's the same guy. Like he shoots her friend. So like
that's right. That's right. Yeah. But there's never like a showdown. He never gets like a comeuppance. He doesn't die. He didn't die in this movie. Neither does the warden.
Oh, interesting. Well, maybe that's
because like she escapes later.
Scorpion 2.
This is a series, yes, and Ben has seen more of
3
them
of the 4.
than
2
Cleveland.
is my favorite, actually. I really want to talk about that one on the podcast, but we have to start at the beginning.
Do those characters, I'm assuming, come back?
Yeah.
Because spoiler alert, she ends up back in prison at the end.
Yes.
After escaping.
This might be a bit of a tangent, but the second one is all about them, Scorpion, as well as a handful of other prisoners escaping prison and on the run. And it's essentially how I would describe it is this movie meets like Cormac McCarthy.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's like very like gritty, sort of semi-western, sort of like very sandy, hot.
Interesting.
Movie.
Is Sunglasses Guy back?
He is.
Okay, excellent.
Cool.
So we do get the showdown with him later. Because I will say, like, that is like one of my minor gripes with this movie is that I feel like there were times where I was wanting it to push farther than it did. And I think a lot of that is, it's a victim of its extremely low budget. Like we said, it's like, it's obviously very low budget, but it's sort of elevated by just like this really excellent like sense of style and cinematography. There were times where, maybe I'm just spoiled by something like Ricky O, which derives its lineage so heavily from this movie, but I feel like I never quite got that level of extremity.
I will say the
which is more my problem than the movies.
Brutal violence in this movie are very satisfying, though.
Sure.
Like that slow-mo shot of the guard being hit with the shovel in the back of the head.
That's my fucking...
Spraying
that
fucking bright red giallo blood.
I wanted like 10 times more of that.
Yeah.
That shot was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
That's the start of the riot where they're all like digging in the pit, and one woman gets fed up with the abuse and runs up behind this guard with her shovel and strikes him in the back of the head. And it's a fucking anime thing. It's like before a lot of anime, it did the thing where like she like hits sort of past him, there's like a beat, and then just like a cartoonish spray of blood out of the back of his head.
Fucking
great.
It's just straight up like cadmium red paint.
It's
love it.
That
The
shit
blood
was
is so
incredible.
cool.
Yeah.
That shit was incredible. I wanted... That illustrates my point so well. I wanted way more of that.
Sure.
Which I know is asking a lot of a movie that came out in 1972, and that is 100% more of a me problem than it is the film's problem. But man, that movie, I got like that shit like chubbed me up a little bit. Like that got my fucking mouth watering.
Yeah, dude, it's so dope.
And it doesn't, and it never quite goes that far.
But each time there is violence, like we do get that super vibrant bright.
Yeah,
light, but not to that degree.
I love the
because like they
stylization,
literally
yeah.
had like a hose behind him,
Yeah.
and they just fucking like set it off, and it just starts spraying, and it's so there's just so much.
Again, just like it's like two samurai facing off in a field in a fucking anime, you know, and they run past each other, and then you hold for a second, and then one of them, you know, like
it's in a prison yard with a shovel.
yeah,
Like, it's
in
so
a fucking
sick.
pit, you know, yeah, it's so cool. That moment is just
I
absolutely
feel like
incredible.
all of the moments of violence in this movie are just so satisfying. Like the beginning where she's in solitary, Scorpion's in solitary,
yeah.
and there's the one sort of, we called them the Rat Pack because they're the snitch bitches.
The snitch bitches.
The snitch
Yeah,
bitches.
that's what I call them.
Yeah.
Like
It's nice that they put them in different colored prison outfits,
Yeah.
so we know that they're like the chosen ones.
They do that at the beginning, and then they go back to everyone being in the same.
That's
and I
true.
think that's so smart because immediately we know which ones are which,
Mm-hmm.
and we start to figure out that hierarchy right away before everything is kind of rolled into one.
yeah, 'cause,
I
like,
did
we
kind of
see them,
forget
like-
it again, except for the one who the marijuana squad guy comes and pays to be an assassin.
Category.
Katagiri, yes,
Yeah.
the only other character name that I remember in the movie.
No, I like it because each of the like the snitch bitches, like they're given tasks at the beginning that all show that like they're in an elevated position. They get the fun special jobs, like torturing inmates.
Yeah, well, and they're like
delivering
working.
speeches,
They're working in like
or-
the prison garden, and they're like eating strawberries and shit, and like smearing the juice like on their lips, like lipstick and everything. And then
and
they
there's that shot in that same scene where like, or it ends with one of the women cackling. And they put this,
Katagiri.
like,
I recognize her
Katagiri,
fucked up
yeah.
teeth. Yeah,
That's right. And they like raise up the pitch and they put this like kind of weird like nasal synth over it where she sounds like she's
And it's
like
a super
shrieking
close up, like
of
with
her
her,
face. It's, like, too close.
with
It's
almost like
uncomfortably close.
geisha lipstick on because she smeared the strawberries on very thinly.
Well, now the one who puts the strawberry lipstick on is a different woman. She's the one who goes and tortures Matsu in solitary, who's dumping the hot soup
the hot
on
soup.
her.
Yeah.
And then she gets
that's not
the
Katagiri.
yeah, she literally gets like the rug pulled out from under her.
So it's that
Well,
and
it's
spills
great. There's
the
a
hot
perfect
soup
setup
all
and
over
payoff.
herself. Yeah,
because in the previous scene where she goes to torture her, she says, "Oh, are you shivering? Are you cold? Here, I had brought a blanket for you." And she dunks it in like a cold puddle first, and then she drapes it over her. And she's strapped up, like she can't move.
yeah, she's
And
like
so
she's like hogtied.
She's like hogtied on the
Yeah.
floor of this cell, this like dank cellar, that's all wet and freezing and dripping, and then she just drapes like a cold cloth and leaves her there. It's like really ruthless. And then to come back and be like, all right, we did cold, now we're gonna do hot. I'm gonna pour hot soup all over this bitch. And she starts like trying to do that, but she stands on the cloth, and so Scorpion spins and pulls her out from
With
under her
her
feet.
teeth.
With her teeth. Yeah, she grabs the cloth with her teeth and pulls her out. and her throwing the cloth on Scorpion ends up being her undoing, and
we get that
falls
great slow-mo
with
shot.
the hot pot going over her head, and she just gets dunked in like the boiling soup.
Misa, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
fucking awesome.
The hot
It's great.
miso.
Like our protagonist, like at the literally like the bottom of the pit of despair, like still finds a way to like get the upper hand. It's fucking awesome. Love that shit.
Yeah. Talk about setting up a badass character.
Yeah, she's so fucking cool.
Being able to destroy your enemy with your arms and legs tied up.
Yeah. Well, also you were
yeah.
that brings up another point. You were saying earlier, Ben, they get so much mileage out of fucking Matsu just staring menacingly
She looks
at
so cool.
people.
Throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's great.
They use it for like the title shot where like when she's captured out in the field by Sunglasses Cop, he beats her down and she looks back up at him with this expression of like anime rage. Like
And they
this
keep
anime-
showing-
it's the angry
Yeah.
like it's that angry glare that like you get like that's like really well depicted in like a lot of anime, and it's so cool to see like her do it like so well in live action. Her expression is like so fucking angry and vivid.
And they keep showing
they
that
just
same
hang on
shot
that
like
shot.
over the opening credits.
Yeah, we keep like
they keep cutting back
like
to
fading
it.
in and out with it. It's like used like her eye is like at the center of things, and like the title is like splayed out over. And throughout the film, she continues to like give that like super cold badass glare.
Yeah.
It almost makes me wonder if shit like fucking like Ju-on was kind of inspired by this
for
movie,
sure, for
because
sure.
she is doing that kind of like wide-eyed like intense stare, and like she's got like white makeup on her face and just like this sort of like very straight
Head
black
down,
hair.
eyes up.
Yeah, and it was like this is like The Grudge, man.
Yeah, I mean, she turns into the angel of death in
Yeah,
this movie.
yeah,
in a lot of
totally.
ways. I really love how the solitary confinement sequence in general is shot. Mm-hmm. Scorpion, as well as the other girl that, the other woman that
Yes.
escapes with her, they're put in adjacent shells.
her friend Yuki. I do remember that other name.
Yuki, yes.
Yuki, yeah.
You're right.
Yes, they're
She's
put in
they're the
adjacent
ones who try to
cells.
escape together at the very beginning.
I
And
love when like they're both first placed in the cell, own individual cells. It's shot where like the fourth wall is removed and we're pulled back, and
yeah, it's an open set, so
Yeah.
the camera sort of pans between
the two walls.
the cells. Yeah,
we get
crossing the wall.
The Yuki first like
awesome split screen.
yeah, and Yuki like hits her head before that's revealed. We just get Yuki in her cell, and she taps her head against the cell or against the wall a couple times, and then the camera then pulls over across the wall to the other cell, and she hits her head, letting her know that it's going to be okay. That we're both in this together.
I love the use of like the open sets in this movie. They do it. Another really great example is jumping from the beginning to the end when she confronts and attacks the marijuana squad cop in the elevator. And they sort of have like a standoff there, her with her knife and him with his gun. And it's like, even though they're in an elevator, they do it as a wide shot. So like it's cut open and just like everything around it is black. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's great.
Because usually like filmmakers will err on the side of realism, where it's like if you're shooting in an elevator, everything's going to be like close and confined. But I love having this sort of like long shot standoff in an elevator that still feels like you still sort of like feel the space between them.
Yeah, you get about 3 different angles. You get her, him, and then the pulled back shot. And for the pulled back shot, what's really cool is over the course of the scene, they lower the camera and tilt it up at him, so we still feel like we're going up in this elevator.
Yeah, it feels like the elevator's moving.
And it had more
it's
like
cool.
motion to it than a lot of elevator sequences because of that. And I really felt like I was in it and moving around, even
Yeah.
for as staged as it was.
Again, like the theatrical aspects of the way the movie is staged. It's cool, like after the riot too, like that where we already talked about, where there's like the matte painting with like the crazy like sky vortex, is like that whole thing is like so obviously like a set, but it looks so good, like that. I love how like exaggerated and stylized it is, and it somehow does not feel like disjointed from the more like obviously like on set location just before that where they're like actually digging this big hole in like a dirt yard, you know, the way it switches between that stuff is just like chef's kiss.
To move into the characters a little bit more, there's a few other characters I wanted to mention. Primarily my favorite drunk prisoner 40 whatever, who is in one of the early shots. She set up she's to me the first character I found to be recognized. We get a shot of the prisoners all talking about how someone has escaped, and the women are all like in their cells and they've got their heads poking out and they're all talking to each other. But there's this one who just really stood out to me because her expressions were just so like over the top and vivid and played out. She just felt like this.
And
like,
she got big hair,
big hair, big personality, and like. She has this kind of like a messy drunk kind of like attitude about her. And there's another shot, the next sequence with all the female prisoners, when they're all being like punished at their meal, for Scorpion escaping. There's this like overhead shot, and there's like shots panning across all the prisoners. And once again, you could just pick her right out because she, like, all the other prisoners are like hitting their bowls with chopsticks, or they're like smacking their bowls on their trays, but then she's just like holding the empty bowl, and she's just like really like lazily like slapping it up and down on the table. And like even when the camera pulls back and there's this beautiful overhead shot of all the women at all the tables, you can still like pick her out in the bottom right corner. And it's great because later on she's the one who runs the rebellion, like, and she's the one who orchestrates that. So they do such a good job of like making sure that your attention is always brought to the important characters. With whether it's Sunglasses Guy or her, or
noticeable distinguishing features.
Yes.
The warden who gets
and personalities
gets stabbed in the eye by the one with the glass shard in the showers earlier, because she's trying to stab Scorpion, and at the last minute Scorpion ducks out of the way and she stabs the warden in the eye.
It's sort of the visual amalgamation of characters that's so common with Japanese stuff in manga and anime. It's like why people cosplay it all the time, because like characters are boiled down to these iconic, distinctive costumes and outfits, and like you see that throughout this movie. There's so many different iconic
much like
characters.
Rikio. And also like it's the same praise I have for fucking Predator too. Like we're getting to know these characters in the action, in the scene, and they're so vivid that their personalities just come through the dialogue or through just, you know, all the crazy cool shit that they're doing. Like, you know exactly who Jesse Ventura's character is off of the first when he starts out by talking about being a sexual tyrannosaur, you know, like in the fucking helicopter, and he's all hoorah, like and it's the same here. Like she immediately like eats up the screen when she's on it. I love the next scene with her after the dinner is the women are all experiencing they're all having their downtime in their quarters and they're playing dice, and one of the snitch bitches is like running a game of dice, and she's trying to run like the drunk one. She's not drunk, but she acts drunk, so that's like the best way I can describe her. And
big hair bitch.
It's not that large of a room, but there's a shitload of people in there. There's like 40 people in this sort of this room, and they're all largely watching the dice game and going about their business. And Scorpion comes in and she kicks the fake dice out from under the snitch bitch. And
no, that's not Scorpion. Yeah. That's Scorpion's friend Ponytail.
It's Ponytail. Okay.
Because Scorpion is still in solitary at that time. Yeah, she's still being punished.
So Ponytail points it out, and she says, you know, like, hey, you know, you're getting played, but she still carries on the game, which is cole.
Yeah, well, that's an important introduction too. Once again, noticeable distinguishing feature, Ponytail.
Unless you're me, whoops.
It's the hair is also straight, but she's got it pulled back, where Scorpion wears it always loose. But anyway, that sets up that she is like a keen eye and an observer, because that pays off at the end where they're
the riot.
During the riot.
Okay, right.
She's the one who sees Katagiri in the middle of the night dumping the gasoline and getting ready to start the fire that would burn them all alive. She's the only one who's like up and watching, and she wakes everybody up and is like, hey, this bitch is trying to burn us alive.
And she catches Kataguri with the gun too, so she's like, so there's like rule of three. She's always reinforced as being observant. That's
she's
fucking
won
cool.
over by Scorpion because after she exposes the dice cheat, the snitch bitches try to set her up by putting the shiv in her outfit. But Scorpion moves that to one of the other snitch bitches' outfits.
Yep, which starts the fight in the shower, the scene that we've talked about a couple times already. Yeah.
What I want to say about that dice scene is it ends with this really good shot that lasts for a minute or two, where they're fighting, and I love this, like she hits her, and she hits the snitch bitch, and she goes over, she gets bowled over a table, and she comes back up with a bloody nose, and it's really clear that like it's old theater techniques, it's like a little sleight of hand. She goes over, there's makeup there, she applied it, she came back up, but it's all done in the same shot, which is really fun. But it's and the camera keeps whipping around and moving, and like they don't cut for about a minute or two there, and there's all these women in the background. There's all these extras, which carries on throughout the film. Like there's some really good crowd work in this movie where like everyone is on board, and it's a real like vivid painting of things happening like in the background.
I will say during the Devil's Punishment shit, if you do look into the background, you will see a number of extras very much not trying to make it look like they're shoveling dirt, just kind of like moving their shovels like on top of the ground, but like not really digging anything.
Dude, I don't blame them. It was probably a long shoot day.
Yeah,
like,
no, I don't mind that stuff in a movie, in a low budget movie like this. Like that kind of stuff is just it adds to the charm.
Well, and I mean, for prisoners, they'd probably do that to fake it.
Sure, yeah. If they're being forced to dig until they drop, so if they can get away with not actually digging, why wouldn't they? Yeah, it's certainly not a problem. Yeah. One of the last things that I want to mention is I think the score in the use of the score particularly in this movie is really interesting, because it feels like during a lot of the most high intensity moments is when it chooses to just not use music at all. Or it's like there is like a score in this film, and there's like especially like her flashback where she's like remembering, being set up and betrayed by the cop and everything. Like stuff like that is like there's like musical motifs and stuff happening, but it's like the chase scene at the beginning, no music. The fight scene in the shower, no music. The fucking Devil's Punishment scene, no music. Them setting the fire in the warehouse during the fucking standoff, no music. It's like it's all Foley. They obviously did not record audio on set, but
I think key to that is we do get music when Scorpion gets out of prison and is killing all of the marijuana squad. There's kind of there's a montage of her killing like a bunch of like the Yakuza like executives, and it's set to that same song that was played earlier.
There's like a muted guitar line too.
Mm-hmm. I find that use of music at the end when she's killing all of the
that montage is great.
Is so much more satisfying, partly because they withhold the music throughout a lot of the action previously.
Yeah.
Because it feels like this is the final satisfying revenge that Scorpion deserves.
Yeah, totally. I brought up the music just because I think it's interesting to kind of do the inverse of what you'd expect, and like during the action scenes and stuff to just like not use music at all. Like it's almost like, everybody's like holding their breath in like these moments. It's very quiet, and you're very focused on like the action that's happening without the sort of emotional manipulation of film score.
Yeah. Well, it's the scenes are so loud and colorful themselves.
Yeah.
And the sound design is able to carry that weight. So they pair it really well. And
Yeah.
of course, too, when the music does come in, it's when someone's walking like a badass.
Yeah, or in really great, something I noticed is that, like, every time Marijuana Squad cop shows up, they always introduce him with sort of like a trumpet sting, and then with like some fucking saxophone bullshit. It's like every time they show up, it's like, it's like this is that fucking asshole.
That fucking guy.
There he
He's
is again.
bad.
That fucking piece of shit. Here he is.
I hate him.
And we get that return of the motif of the Japanese flag at the end, where she fucking kills him on the rooftop, after she sort of stalked him around, and he throws up the knife into the air, does the slow motion of it spinning,
the Japanese
overlaid over the Japanese flag, and then as he falls down and is lying there dead, you can see the shadow of the flag flapping over him, and there's just very loud Foley of what is obviously somebody just shaking a towel or something to make it.
This might sound pretentious, but I feel like the knife flying over the Japanese flag almost feels like a reclamation of the earlier scene of her losing her virginity.
Yeah.
Of
Blood for blood.
Yeah, blood for blood,
Yeah.
kind of regaining that sort of essentialist sexuality.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. I love how that end sequence fight is shot. Both of the fights with that dude are awesome. I love the earlier sequence where before she goes to prison,
Where she first attacks him.
yeah, she's cloaked in this black trench coat, and she
It's
throws it in
just
the
a
air.
cape. She's just wearing a
yeah.
black cape.
Yeah, and half of it is red, half of it is black. She throws it up. It's
It's a
super bright red.
It's a Dracula cape. The inside of it is red.
yeah.
The outside is black.
And
Dracula
she has a knife, and her titty is out for some reason.
Yup.
And she just goes in.
Well,
we know the reason.
She's wearing the outfit that she was wearing when she was raped by the Yakuza, when they tore her clothes off and stuff. It's so funny. They expect us to believe that she just this whole time she's just been wearing. She hasn't changed clothes at all, and she somehow found a Dracula.
She's so full of rape. She got thrown back out on the
She
street.
somehow found a Dracula cape that she uses to crouch beside a car while she waits for him to come out of the police station.
She hasn't done anything else. She needed the cape. She got the cape. She got the knife, and she went to task.
Yeah.
And I love that
She didn't get it done though. She didn't get it done. She
tried though.
She
put her
tried.
best.
She tried.
She picked a really bad. She should have waited for him to leave the police station and then maybe get him. That would have.
Yeah, wait for him outside his house or something, not
But that's not
outside
as
the
dramatic,
police
and then the
station.
movie wouldn't
Yeah.
have happened.
Well, yeah, then she wouldn't have gone to. Yeah.
I do. Love
He
how
wouldn't
she-
have been a nemesis for her to kill at the end of the movie.
It is super fun how she uses the cape as a funky sleight of hand, and she hurls it in the air, and while he's looking at the cape, she rushes him with the knife, and it's
Awesome.
It's goofy and fun,
rules.
and and then she gets grabbed by all the cops.
I love the final fight as well with him, because she is quickly outmatched when he brings a gun to the knife fight.
Yep,
Um,
on the elevator.
and then he tries to make out with her.
Yes, he cannot resist one final gloating kiss. And she bites the shit out of him,
Yeah,
which
she bites his tongue off.
which causes him to recoil, allowing her to get in with the knife and stab him and get the gun away from him.
And he makes his way to the rooftop. But I love it too because it's returning to the same location as before, the police station. I mean, we don't go to the roof early on, but we're at the same place now, and now she's ascended. And she gets her revenge. I love it too. He's running around the rooftop and he thinks he's gotten away, and then he makes a yelp, and the camera pulls over, and she's behind him with a knife. She got in there.
We get that great shot early on of the Japanese building with the banner, and it says something like "Hope and Humanity for the Future of Japan" or something like that. And then later on, she kills the Yakuza boss and hangs him from the roof.
Yup.
and he's hanging with that banner next to him, and it's just like, oh.
I love how that
So
scene
well
starts
shot.
too, because like it starts in his office and it looks like an empty room, and the camera is outside the room, and it zooms into the desk, and then he walks into frame, and it stays zoomed in that shot for a while, and we feel like we're watching him, you know, like we're
the
stalking
framing,
him from a distance
because there's like a bouquet of roses,
yeah,
or
it's this
something,
blue room
and,
with this really
and
vibrant
they're shooting
red
through
rose.
it. So, like, the bokeh from, like, the out-of-focus roses are muddying up the frame. And it just adds so much vibrancy to the shot because it's just this bright red all around him. And it's sort of the
In a very blue
impending
scene.
doom of violence coming upon him.
I just like how many phones he's got on his desk.
2 phones.
Because he's very important. Yeah, he's got 2 phones, one for the plug and one for the load.
Truly. Yeah.
Kevin Gates can relate to this man.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I'm ready to rate if you guys are.
Let's go, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Ben, this was your pick, so you start us off.
I love this movie a lot. I think, personally, the second one is better. We'll talk about it soon enough. But I love this one nonetheless. I think it is iconic. I think it is incredibly influential. Look at fucking Kill Bill,
Yeah.
for example, number 1. Yeah, I think it's an excellently shot movie, beautifully vibrant, and it takes exploitation material and elevates it in a way I always love. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, I had a great time with this movie. Nice blind spot for me that has now been revealed. Japanese 70s exploitation. Yeah, really, I've said it a couple times, but really incredible low budget film that's elevated just by an incredible sense of style and cinematography. Had a great time with this one. Feel like it could have gone a little bit farther in places for my taste, but overall, really good time. Strong 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, like I said, I don't usually like this genre, but I like what this movie brought to the table, in respect to that. I think, I tend to think about like the sequence where they're all held up with the guard hostages, and, they take advantage of them as well. They get their, sort of revenge, and, the sequence with the infiltrator who's trying to get information out of her, and how that goes. I think there's at least a lot to discuss there, and again, I think with this like setting of like a women's prison, like that kind of subject matter is like bound to come up, and I think that the way that it discusses it, while I don't, I remain on the fence. I'll say I do think it's there's a lot to unpack and uncover, and when it comes to this,
Cleveland's on the fence
cinematography-
about rape. You heard it here first on the podcast.
Jesus Christ.
Cleve's on the fence about it.
No. But what I loved was just the discussion of it in movies, and anyway,
Kino.
Cinema.
Cinema.
But man, I love the style of this movie. I love the confidence. I adore it. And I thought it was super fucking rad, and I had an amazing time watching it. And I also appreciated that it had a 90-minute runtime. It was nice and short, for as jam-packed as it was with style and visuals. Man, I'm tempted to give it a 5. I really liked it. I think a 4.5 is a more sensible score. I think that feels right for all the rest of it, but fuck it. Giving it a 5. I really liked it.
Hell yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I'll say 5.
Well, that will give female prisoner number 701 Scorpion an average of 4.5 out of 5. Definitely recommended. Again, we watched the Arrow 4K restoration. Really fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
Looks great.
They put out a great box set of all 4 of the main series. I would recommend watching all of them. They're great.
Would strongly recommend if you can get a hold of this version in some form or fashion. Man, it sure looks fantastic. Beautifully shot film. Really deserving of the high quality restoration.
This is one of those movies I would kill to see on the big screen just because the vibrancy of all the cinematography.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, check it out if you're so inclined. Next week we're moving on to a Patreon pick. Next week's episode will be brought to you courtesy of our newest honorary podboy, Micah, who has chosen the 1991 film Popcorn for us, which I believe is a new one for all of us.
Yes.
I've heard of this one. I know some of what happens in it, but I've never seen it, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah,
always down for some new things that none of us have seen.
Yeah, I'm getting a weird Mandela effect with this movie. I thought I've seen it, but the movie I'm thinking of is about like a babysitter and a really rude asshole of a kid, and I can't remember what the name of it is.
That's not this movie.
Yeah.
If you want to see what movie Cleveland's talking about, good luck. We don't know what it is. But next week is Popcorn. 1991.
Yeah, stay tuned to find out. Stay tuned. I figure out what movie
maybe Cleveland will remember what he's talking about. Maybe not. But next week we'll be talking about Popcorn.
All right. And on that insane note, we have an insane sponsor, and oh my god, the shelf is depleted. The shelf is waning.
Is there at least one left in there?
It's the final sponsor on the sponsor shelf for now. It regenerates.
Rest assured, there will be more next week.
Yes, as it gathers more flesh and drinks.
I'll
more
perform
blood.
the necessary rituals.
Okay, good. You know, the rituals. And speaking of, the sponsor this week is brought to us by one of the most necessary ingredients in the sponsor shelf reclaiming rituals, ham bag. You need a bag of hams? Look no further than Hambag. Hambag, Humboldt, and Hornkel Associates. They got your handbags. Put up your hands for the handbag. Ham bag.
Have you ever hollowed out a ham and slapped some straps, some leather straps on it? Handbag.
Calvin Klein.
From Calvin Klein, handbag. Thanks, Calvin.
And Klein.
And Klein. I think it's just one guy. But
no, it's a different Calvin and Klein.
Oh no, this is Calvin. This is Calvin and Klein.
Yeah, this is Calvin and Klein.
I knew that. All right.
They're both named Calvin Klein.
That's it. That's it for us this week. If you like the show, leave us 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can support us on patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Announcement on that. We are adding Discord access to our $5 a month tier. So
join.
If you subscribe to our Horror God tier at $5 a month, you'll have access to our Discord, which is becoming livelier and livelier all the time. It's great. So come hang out with us on Discord. But of course, special shout out to our $10 a month honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, and Micah, who we love and appreciate, and who get to pick fun movies for us to watch. Like next week's episode. So yeah, patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Twitter, for as long as that continues to exist, becoming more and more of a stupid dumpster fire every day. No longer integrates with Acast, so our episodes aren't even being posted there automatically. But if for some you can follow us there on Twitter at podpeoplepod. You can follow us at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod for a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. I'm also still on Twitter at SomeSpookySnake and streaming on twitch.tv/SomeSpookySnake for Spooky Saturdays.
Hell yeah. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And you can find me at, or you can find my work, or some of my work, at dreadxp.com, amongst all of the super cool games. Check us out, where all of our stuff is on Steam. And you can also, of course, find me hanging out in the Dread XP movie night chat, watching movies on weekends, usually. So, you know,
We
come
love to
swing by,
watch.
say
We
hello.
love to watch movies, don't we, folks?
We do. It's usually trash over there. I'm usually watching garbage, and having a great time. I love garbage.
Rolling around in garbage.
I love
Well,
filth. Just give me all the filth and garbage, and come wallow with me.
if you want to come wallow with us, don't you worry. Next week we'll be back for more wallowing. Night.
Two phones, one for the plug and one for the load. I got two phones, one for the bitches and one for the dough. Think I need two more. Line popping, I'm ring, ring, ringing. Count money while it ring, ring, ringing. Trap jumping, I'm ring, ring, ringing. I got two phones, one for the plug and one for the load. I got two phones, one for the bitches and one for the dough. Think I need two more. Line popping, I'm ring, ring, ringing. Count money while it ring, ring, ringing. Trap jumping, I'm ring, ring, ringing. Button start to foreign, oh my god, I'm gorgeous. I just put the key inside my pocket, pocket, might not get to see it. This a new Ferrari, man in the mirror. How you choose to bother? Someone say they calling, I don't feel like talking. Everything will get returned the way I bought it. Phone be interrupting me while I'm recording. Phone be making women feel they unimportant. Call my doggy, say it's all the way retarded. Keep the all cause I am not using the form. In kitchen, I just finished up a new perform. Hater, wish you well. I got clientele. I just got it off the scale. I got two